am live. It is Wednesday, the 17th of July. A beautiful day here. I'm reading extracts out of Joan Marshall Grant's Speaking from the Heart. This is her book about ethics. She passed away in 1989, but this was published in 2007, and it was edited by Nicola Bennett, Jane Lahr, and Sophia Rossoff, which I believe was her granddaughter. And these are jottings and notes she left behind, which did not make it into a book. We are here in chapter 16, God and Religions, and she is heading this chapter, Teachings from the Galilean. I'm always fascinated with what she comes up with, and I have not read this before, so it's a journey for me as well. Joan Marshall Grant was a writer of her own far memories. She also wrote a novel, The Lad and the Lady, and these are now nutty questions and answers, and as I said, her notes. Teachings from the Galilean. He, the Galilean, often talked about stages of evolution, and that their hierarchy of heaven, where as father to son should be. But so seldom are, or rather the language had a male-female word, i.e. he, she, so missing in English. And to his intimates acknowledged that his father had reached a God standard. In effect, he said, my father-mother has now become a god, implying every individual had the potentiality to evolve to and beyond the God level if he took the trouble to evolve. Hence the dreadful mistranslation, my father is one of the gods, into God's only begotten son, as at that time most senior characters, pharaohs, etc., had a son of God title. For instance, Sekita in Winged Pharaoh, and priests had similar titles. It was natural for contemporaries to assume, most correctly, that it was the son of a god. Only to his intimates did he say that his father was an Egyptian, because his mother was still alive, and though he seldom saw her, he knew she minded, or rather Joseph and the siblings minded, his having been a bastard. But he usually, when pressed, said that Joseph was not his father, so as to protect Joseph and the others from being endangered by their relationship. Another source of the virgin birth myth, remember the Greek and Roman myths in which gods so frequently fathered children on mortal ladies, even when they turned themselves into swans to do so. Neos flash suddenly come in. The 40 days in the desert for revelations ascribed to Jesus Christ was in fact a cover story. It was when we met with various underground leaders who wanted him to start a revolution against the rule of the Romans and Jews. He eventually decided against it, probably wrongly as it turned out, because although he knew a benign authority was essential, because it is a 3D reflection of the eternal pattern, he also knew that violence leads to violence. He hoped to the last ditch that the people would follow him in demonstrating the basic of do unto others. Words of the Galilean. How can one ever find surcease from the fruits of their loyalty? I led them because they needed a shepherd to show them fresh pastures, and then they followed me because they remembered the notes of the reed in the early morning and at sunset to keep them safe when the night came down. And then they followed me, and I could not protect them, and so I betrayed their faith that if they had heard the small notes on the other edge of sound, they would be spared the knife edge of the wind and the harsh chastisement of the sun in anger. But this is the ever-constant theme. I will show you the pattern and protect you if you follow it. The Galilean was very tactless indeed of dozens of incidents which I cannot get onto paper via my forebrain. He really did say, follow me and leave your father and mother, etc., etc., which sometimes led to one female male going with us when we moved on with the next hitchhike. usually a camel caravan, and then it was another month to feed yet another chill person with whom to huddle under our blanket. Soon the followers proved to be more than we could cherish. It was not only that the food I could scrounge was inadequate, but that they did not want to think for themselves. They saw us as a more benign authority than their priests or parents. But when they discovered we could not teach them how to learn for themselves by utilizing their own experience, they turned against us and screeched, "Why did you take me away from the parents, priests?" They did not only tore the blanket away, they would not share into shreds. They tore us into shreds. Both the Galilean and Sikita have an innate idea that all you can ever do for another individual is to mobilize that individual's experience so that he can have the data with which to steer his own course. Once he has the use of his own energies, it is up to him where he goes. This I know to be true even before Sikita met Nesera. If they hadn't at least got this far, she would not have been offered to Nesera as a pupil. The raising of the corpse from the dead occurred when the Galilean and I were walking through a village and a dead man was being carried past on a litter with 8 bearers. He was an important person, otherwise he would not have been carried in this procession. We were at the back of the crowd when suddenly he said, "But he's not dead," and elbowed his way through the crowd and shouted in his ear with one hand on the corpse's ear and the other on his solar plexus, "Wake up or you will be buried alive." And the corpse sat up and became healthy and vigorous indeed. He was brisk with the mourners, especially to the sons and the wailing wife. This happened somewhere on the Euphrates. We got out there by joining a camel caravan, bringing spices to somewhere, I can't remember where, southwest. He did the same thing when a lot of corpses were waiting to be buried or burned after a plague. We noticed that one of them was a different skin color, slightly pink instead of grey dead, and we went in and took him, the corpse, out. He was in a catatonic trance because of all the rest of his family had died of the epidemic, and he thought he had it too. He, the corpse, had not died of disease but of fear. We cured the fear. This was one of the "thy faith has made thee whole" ones, when there was no need to give energy, but merely to be a barrier between the person and the person's fear of himself. Oddly enough, these are the most difficult. Every miracle is entirely unique. The source of the energy is because one has been able to use the exact threats in oneself and the other person to re-establish the pattern. It is a great privilege when in a human body to be able to do miracles. It depends on being even temporarily in total directed, self-directed state of giving what one has to someone else, without any holdback of desire for praise or fear of blame. It cannot be turned on or off like a tap. From such taps flows only sludge, or at best, turbid fluid instead of the bright water. If the Galilean had been able to do repeat performances, there would have been lines of people waiting to be cured by the bloody flux or made to see again. He would have been running outpatients clinics and had hundreds of fellow psychotherapists coping with the crowds. One of the reasons why Judas betrayed him is that Judas tried to lay on scientific proof sessions with the wife of a Jewish high priest. Instead of curing her, he said, as near in words as I can get it down on paper, "Your pain is imposed on yourself by your determination to inflict pain on those who caused you to suffer. Only faith means recognition of reality so far as I can put it into words. Only faith can cure you. Your wholehearted effort to change your living and dying, your living so that everyone whom you meet will become more lively, your dying so that everyone will regret that they cannot touch you with their fleshy hands or kiss you on your vibrant forehead, but who will also know that you are with me, them, until the furthest galaxy. I am now and always." think we're coming to chapter 17, Ethics of Reincarnation, and I'll read that next time.